So we're in for a treat. So without further ado, I'm so pleased to introduce to you Dr. Ondria Rodgers, our speaker for today.
Good evening, everybody. It's awesome to see everyone's faces. Moselle, your check is in the mail.
I'm going to send it back. You know, I don't do any of this for money.
Moselle is just way too kind. She and I have known each other for years and just have had a common love for natural health and everything pertaining to it. So it's an honor and a privilege not only to be her friend, however, to also serve on the board of her nonprofit. So the first thing that I want to do, because this is going to be an interactive presentation, so I would like for everybody to unmute themselves right now, because I am going to be asking all of you questions, and I would like for you all to give your feedback. This isn't just going to be something where I'm talking and you all are listening. So the very first question that I'm going to ask, and anyone can chime in and answer, or you can raise your hand if you like. But first of all, the first thing I want to ask is, what is it that you all know about the brain? Like, what is your general understanding about the brain and what it does?
Okay, well.
I have one.
Okay, say your name and then go ahead and speak and answer the question for me, if you please.
Okay.
Dr. Sheila Forte, it regulates all the functions of your body.
Okay, that's an awesome answer. Anybody else?
Okay.
It is considered the master control center.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely, Moselle. It is considered the organ that regulates all of the body systems, and it is considered the master control system, like Moselle said. So it's like, how many people are familiar? They're somewhat familiar with computers. Raise your hand. You have a little bit of an idea about computers? Okay. Okay. So if you know anything about computers, computers have what they call a CPU, right? A central processing unit, right? And the central processing unit of a computer is the brains of the computer. So it tells the computer everything that it needs to do. When you push a button, the central processing unit gives that direction to the motherboard, and then the computer does exactly what you tell it to do because the CPU gives that command to the motherboard, right?
Okay.
Hey, Katrina, it's good to see your beautiful face. Hey, gorgeous. So the brain and the body is similar, right? So you can actually live without your heart, your lungs, your kidneys, and all of those things, but you definitely cannot live without your brain. And what does that mean? I'm sure you have heard the unfortunate stories, right, of people who are on life support, right? The organs have shut down, but the brain is still sending electrical signals, and the brain is still sending waves. So the body's functions may not be there, but the brain is still active, right? So the brain is one of those organs in the body that without it, you can't function at all, period. It's a wrap, right? It's just a done deal. And nourishing the brain, which is what we're going to be talking about tonight, is going to be one of those topics that goes beyond just what foods to eat and what foods not to eat, right? Because nourishing the brain goes beyond just the physical form of food. It goes into how you think. It goes into you regulating your mood. It goes into how you even see the world, the perspective of the world outside of you. So brain health is not just essential to physical health, it's also essential to emotional and mental health as well, okay? So the very first thing I want to talk about are the 7 tenets of natural health, right? The 7 tenets of natural health. They're like the foundation that you can use as a guide to help you through any type of a health crisis that you may find yourself in. So when we're talking about the brain, the very first tenet of natural health is root cause. Now, when you hear root cause, can anybody tell me what they think about when they hear the words root cause? What does that sound like to you?
Well,
Where something starts.
Yes, exactly. And who was that spoke?
Mhm. Dr. Forte.
Dr. Forte,
Right here.
thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yes, where things start. Absolutely, where things start. So, as a naturopath, we're taught that 80% of illness is emotional and only 20% is physical. Okay, which means that most illnesses, most diseases, and disorder in the body has an emotional component to it. Again, 80% is emotional, only 20% is physical. So that means that most dis-ease and disorder in the body has an emotional component to it. Okay. And as naturopaths, we look at the emotional component or emotional stress as a probable root cause, which is the first health and wellness tenet, to any disorder or dis-ease in the body. Okay. So when we're talking about the brain specifically, right? If the brain isn't getting the nourishment that it needs, it can give you a myriad of symptoms, right? Can you guys think of some things that may give you some symptoms as to maybe the brain is not optimal in its function? Can you think of some things that would maybe signal to you, maybe my brain needs a little bit, nourishment?
Yolanda Crenshaw. I believe depression might be the first symptom, probably the first symptom that you know something's wrong up there.
Okay, that's a good indication that, hey, maybe something isn't quite right, because my mood doesn't seem to want to get from feeling sad to feeling happy. Okay, anyone else?
Brain fog.
Brain fog, yes, that's a common one, Katrina. As we, even young people, have brain fog. So it's not related to age at all, and brain fog is simply sometimes a simple word doesn't come to mind, or maybe you're always leaving your keys in the freezer, or, simple, small things that just seem to escape you that you should know, but they're just not coming to your mind right away. That can be brain. That was a good one, Katrina. Anyone else?
Balance.
Okay, who was that speaking?
Two people were speaking. I said balance.
Balance?
Yes.
Okay, like as in you sometimes lose your balance, right?
You're walking.
When you're walking, okay. All right, so we're gonna stop there. Thank you guys for those responses. Those were great responses. So when we're talking about these symptoms, they all have a root cause, right? And they can all be related to what's going on in the brain, right? So one of the things that can help these things, and we'll get to nutrition in a moment, but one of the things that can help these types of things that are going on in the body is health and wellness tenet number 2, which is breathing. You have got to breathe. And I talk about this in all of my lectures because the importance of breathing isn't simply to get air in your body because you need to breathe, right? Breathing oxygenates the entire body. Breathing oxygenates your body systems. When you feel like you're having brain fog, when you feel like your balance is off, when you feel like you just, are mentally tired, you just can't seem to get your thoughts together, the best thing to do in those moments, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Just that simple act brings increased oxygen to the blood, which increases circulation, which then increases oxygenation to the brain. And I bet you if you took 30 seconds to do some deep breathing, whatever it was that you were trying to think of, or whatever it was that you were trying to do, or even if you felt like you were a little bit off balance, if you just took some time, 30 seconds to do some deep breathing, you will probably find that you recall that thing better, or you can find that even you feel a bit more centered to where now you can feel your balance and you can walk again, right? Because of the oxygen that's coming from the increased circulation in the blood that's going to the brain. Okay, that's why breathing is so important, right? Breathing is also helpful in bringing down stress, right? Stress is one of those things that can also cause issue to the way that your brain functions. You know, Ms. Crenshaw earlier, she mentioned depression, you know, and depression is one of those symptoms that is an indication that for whatever reason, an individual doesn't have the ability to manage their emotions. They feel like their emotions are all over the place and their thoughts are running all at the same time about all of these things that are going on in their head. And a simple act of breathing can help calm all of that down because you're increasing the blood circulation throughout the body. And as you're breathing, you're increasing oxygen in the blood, which goes to the brain, which helps to calm you down. Okay. So the next health and wellness tenet, you know, that we're going to talk about is move yourself. Now, when I say move yourself, can someone tell me what they think that means? Move yourself?
Exercise.
Yes, Dr. Forte, absolutely. Exercise. Exercise, let me tell you guys something. People tend to want to not exercise because of a myriad of reasons. You know, child, I can't mess up my hair. I got to keep I just got my hair done. I can't be sweating. Child, please, right? That's one reason folks don't want to exercise, which is silly, right? That's a silly excuse. Or you have people who don't want to exercise simply because maybe physically they can't exercise. Maybe they've had an injury, right? They just feel like if they exercise, they'll re-injure themselves. And that's also silly because you can take time, right? You can take your time and you can go slow and you can pace yourself without overexerting yourself and, re-injuring yourself. So some of the benefits of exercise is, again, we're going to talk about the oxygenation in the blood, increasing circulation. That's an awesome benefit of exercise. Exercises increases your vitality. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, if you often feel fatigued, if you often feel like even maybe the motivation to just get up and do things has left you, right? Exercise, due to the increased oxygenation and circulation of the blood in the body, exercise actually helps to increase your energy, right? So you don't feel as tired as often when you exercise regularly. And this is also awesome for the brain. When you exercise, you also are increasing the natural hormones that the body needs. You are increasing oxygen and blood circulation in the brain that the body needs. And the brain actually can increase its growth of new brain cells each time you are physically exercising, which goes to the topic of vitality, right? Vitality is your ability to stay and feel youthful. Well, when you're exercising and your brain is increasing the growth of new brain cells, that increases your ability to recover quickly. You know, when you're doing exercising your muscles, it helps to clear the skin. It helps to reduce wrinkles because your brain is producing new brain cells because of the physical activity and the physical exertion you're putting your body through, right? So exercise is extremely important to the brain. Now, aside from physical exercise, what do you think are some really good brain activities that can help mentally with the brain in its vitality?
Yolanda, Sudoku.
Oh, Sudoku. You know, I have always wanted to learn how to play Sudoku. It looked really complicated to me, but the more complicated the game, the better. So that's an awesome answer. Anyone else?
Learning new things.
Yes, absolutely. Who was that
Okay.
speaking?
Julie.
Julie, that's awesome. Puzzles from Bren's. Okay, I see you in chat there, Bren's. Absolutely. Puzzles.
Okay.
And
I
these
like
things,
puzzles.
you know, the more complicated, the better, right? Because the more you challenge the brain, the more, again, the brain is going to create new brain cells. So mental exertion is just as important as physical exertion, okay? So it's going to be important that you do learn new things, you do puzzles, you go out and you actually engage in classes that you enjoy, right? You know, reading, reading new material or reading old material. Bill Thomas and chess and math. Those are awesome activities to do to increase brain activity and get the brain producing new brain cells. So you got to exercise the physical body, right, in order for the brain to create new brain cells. And you also want to do mental exercises so that the brain creates new brain cells as well. This increases your vitality. This also reduces those symptoms that we talked about before, symptoms like depression and brain fog, and mental fatigue, okay? These things are really important to helping increase your vitality. So now we can talk about health and wellness tenet number 4, which is
Okay.
nourishing nutrition. Okay.
Nourishing.
So when we're talking about the brain and nourishing nutrition, we're going to talk about some foods that aren't so good for the brain. And then we'll talk about the foods that are good for the brain. Okay. So one of the things that, you definitely want to stay from, that I say all the time, are your no-nos, is you want to stay away from processed foods. Okay. So what do I mean by processed foods? Foods that have chemicals, additives, preservatives, colorants, all of those types of things. You want to stay away from those foods, okay? You want to stay away from foods that have artificial dyes in them. You want to stay away from foods that have artificial sugars and artificial flavors. You got to stay away from those foods. Those foods don't help the body nor the brain at all, okay? You want to have foods that are organic in nature whenever possible. Your fresh vegetables, nuts, grains, and seeds. These are the foods that you want to consume. You want to definitely stay away from fast foods, your McDonald's, your Wendy's, your White Castles. Those foods are filled with a lot of salt, a lot of sugar, and definitely a lot of additives that your brain nor your body need, okay? You want to stay away from foods that have a high sugar content, like your processed white rice. They have them at the dollar store for like 99 cents a bag. And I know for some that are on a really strict budget, that's a food that's convenient, but artificial sugars, even in foods, are not good for the brain, right? Now, don't get it, misconstrued, okay? Sugar it has been villainized, right? And I get that. You don't want to consume artificial sugar because it can really wreak havoc on the body. However, the brain, in order for it to maintain its health, it does need sugar, okay? So healthy sugars that don't spike the blood, like fruit sugars, those sugars are healthy for the body because they don't spike the sugar in the blood, and they go through the bloodstream and just, if they actually feed the blood cells throughout the day moderately, right? And because they gradually feed the blood cells, that healthy sugar goes to the brain. It feeds the brain cells in the brain because the brain can't function without nutritional sugar. Your organic sugar. If you want to do the sugars that were mentioned in the video we just watched from the young lady talking about raw veganism, those are awesome, right, to feed the brain, because again, the brain really does need healthy sugars in order for it to function. Right. So now let's quickly talk about those foods that are good for the brain, right? So you want to definitely consume your vitamin B complex. okay? If you're going to definitely be in an eating pattern of being raw vegan or vegetarian, it's very, very, very important that you supplement with healthy vitamin B. And Moselle hit it right on the head when she mentioned brewer's yeast, right? Nutritional yeast is a good source of vitamin B as well, but so is brewer's yeast. Brewer's yeast it contains all of your B vitamin complex, which is really essential to brain health. Why is vitamin B essential to brain health? Because vitamin B is an essential vitamin for the nerve. Okay, the nerves need vitamin B in order to send the electrical impulses through the body. That's another reason vitamin B is important to the brain, because the brain is also responsible for sending electrical impulses to the nerves. So it's very, very important that you are consuming plant-based sources of vitamin B. Brewer's yeast is one of them. You can get also vitamin B complex from beans, sweet peas, cantaloupe, brown rice. Those are awesome foods as well to get vitamin B as well. Your brewer's yeast has the most complete complex though, so you definitely want to incorporate brewer's yeast along with all of the other healthy foods that you're eating to get your vitamin B. And then the other nutrient that you want to consume for brain health is omega-3s. You get omega-3s from nuts and seeds, chia seeds, flax seeds, your almonds, your walnuts, your pecans. These foods are high in omega-3s, and the brain needs omega-3 for cognitive health. And what do I mean by cognitive health? So cognitive health is your motion, right? Your coordination. Okay, so and when you find that you're out of balance physically, your stride may be off just a little bit, you might want to consume more of your chia seeds, your flax seeds. Hemp seeds, as was mentioned earlier, is also an awesome form of omega-3. So these things are really, really important for nourishing the brain and making sure that the brain health is there for your vitality, okay? The next tenet in the health and wellness way of living we want to talk about is we definitely have to be considerate of the fact that when we're eating well, we're living well, okay? However, sometimes we're not doing the best things to get rest, okay? So when you rest your soul, your mind, and your body, we're talking about, what do you think we're talking about when we're talking about get your rest?
Sleep.
Yes, absolutely. Sleep. Yes. Sleep is imperative for brain health, right? If you don't get proper sleep, you are depriving the brain of its ability to rejuvenate, right? The body needs its time to rejuvenate. Well, the brain is responsible for the rejuvenation processes in the body. So if you're not getting proper sleep, then your body can't rejuvenate because the brain's not rejuvenating. Okay. So it's going to be really, really important to get at least the very bare minimum that most studies have proven are effective is at least 6 to 8 hours a night of sleep. And this window allows you to get to the rapid eye movement or the REM state of sleep, which is the state of sleep that you must get to get your rest and your rejuvenation for the body. Okay. The REM state of sleep allows the body's systems to rejuvenate. It allows the brain to rejuvenate and regenerate brain cells. So you have got to get your rest by getting at least 6 to 8 hours of sleep. And you must get to that REM state of sleep to experience the rejuvenation and rest that the body needs in order for it to heal, even especially if you're going through a health crisis. Okay. Does anyone have any questions before I continue? I want to make sure that if you have any questions or comments that you can go ahead and address them right now real quick.
Dr. Ondria, I've noticed that when I'm in REM sleep, I dream all the time, but I tend to remember my dream because I do not like to know that I'm in a dream and I wake up and I can't remember what I was dreaming. But the
Okay.
REM gets me there to remember.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And I don't know if anyone has any particular beliefs or any particular ideas around uh, dreams. However, dreaming is also an awesome way for the brain to rejuvenate, right? It's important that you um, do get to that state of sleep where you dream. Now, some people, have trouble getting to that state where they dream. And I can understand that when most of the time that may be related to stress, especially if you're dreaming about things that happened in your day, you know. So it's important to have a nightly routine that can help you release the stress of the day so that when you are going to bed, you're not going to bed with the day on your mind. Okay. Um, but that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Moselle, because dreaming is really an awesome way for the brain to get its exercise, right? It's a way for the brain to rejuvenate, and it's in that REM state of sleep when you're dreaming, the brain actually regenerates new brain cells. So it's really, really important to get to that state. And when you dream, that's awesome. So I've got two questions here in chat. First question, what happens if you're a light sleeper? Well, if you find yourself waking up periodically throughout the night because you're a light sleeper, my suggestion is to create an environment where you're not feeling anxious before you go to sleep. So make sure you have a nightly routine that has released your stress through the day so that by the time you do relax, you can feel totally relaxed before you get to sleep. And then secondly, make sure that the room is completely dark. Um, Having that state of complete darkness allows the brain to know that it's time to sleep. Complete darkness is a signal to the brain that it's time to sleep. That also helps to get you to a deep state of sleep. Okay. I hope that helps, Yolanda. And then Bill asks, are B vitamin and omega-3 the only supplement that is needed for the brain? Good question, Bill. So there is also a cycle that discusses how stress affects the entire body, right? And this is called the toxic stress cycle. And in the cycle, when we talk about brain and nerve, we talk about the function of the brain, which is, as Dr. Forte mentioned earlier, coordinates muscle movement, relays messages within the brain, controls breathing, circulation, respiration, emotions, judgment, memory, and all of those things. Well, the nourishment that the brain needs can also be found in herbs as well as minerals. So we'll talk about that for just a brief moment. So when we're talking about some of the minerals that the brain needs, right, you can supplement by getting either a complex of trace minerals, or you can get some of these minerals in their in singular forms in capsules or powders. But the best way to mineralize the body is through dark leafy greens, right? Eating your dark leafy greens, and preferably, of course, eating them as raw as possible, is what can help bring to the brain those minerals that it needs. Minerals like magnesium, manganese, calcium, phosphorus, iron, copper, iodine, sulfur, silicone, and fluorine. These are minerals that you can get through your green leafy vegetables. You can get these through vegetables like your broccoli, dandelion root, kohlrabi, spinach, collard, mustard and turnip greens. So these are just some foods that you can get some of those minerals from. And then when we talk about herbal supplements that you can take, go to St. John's wort, oat straw, red clover. Red clover grows in the yard, you know. So if any of you have seen in vacant lots those really pretty red flowers with the red tops on them, that's red clover. You can literally pick those out of the ground, boil them up into a tea, and drink them 3 times a day, right? And they grow in vacant lots and in your backyard every summer, right? They're beautiful when they're in bloom. So lavender, and Moselle is a distributor for the oil company. Forgive me, I forget the name.
Young Living.
Young Living, yes. So breathing in lavender is also an awesome herb for the brain because it helps awaken the mental clarity that can lead to relieving brain fog. So, so some of these are ways to be able to nourish the brain outside of vitamin B and omega-3. You know, you've got your herbs, you've got minerals, and those things are awesome for helping to nourish the brain. That was a great question, Bill. Thank you for asking. All right, so now let's move on to health and wellness tenet number 6. So when we talk about ways to help nourish the brain, this is actually going to be in addition to awesome nutritious foods and exercise and breathing. So if anybody can think of some awesome ways to help relieve stress, give me some ways that you guys use to help alleviate stress.
Prayer and medication.
Absolutely. See, Katrina, you kind of had an inside look because you know about the tenets of health and wellness, because you know that's number 6. But yes, absolutely, absolutely. Can anyone think of any other ways to relieve stress?
And talking to people, having that social network and having somebody you can, you know, have somebody to hear your problems and kind of problem solve. I think
Absolutely, absolutely. Bren's in chat says reading the Bible. Ms. Crenshaw says taking a walk. So yes, talking to your support system, diving deeply into your spiritual system, going outside and walking amongst nature, right? As Katrina said, you know, prayer, meditation is awesome. These are awesome ways of helping to relieve stress. Now, what does this have to do with nourishing the brain? I know you're asking the question. I heard somebody ask that. So the way that these things help to nourish the brain, when you're in that stress mode, whether it's emotional stress, whether it's physical stress, the brain immediately engages the flight or fight mode for the body to handle the stress, right? The brain engages the hormones that activate the adrenal glands, that activate the cortisol. So when the brain senses stress, it immediately goes into protection mode, right? Sending the body through its process so that you can either fight or run, okay? Now, when you do not tell the brain that the stress is over, the brain will stay in that state of stress. And this is systemic stress. Systemic stress happens to all of the systems in the body, not just the brain. And that's because you have not given the signal to the brain that the stress is over. So now the brain engages all of the body systems, right? So that you can either fight or run. And these systems must be told that the stress is over in order for the brain to stop activating the body systems. Does that make sense? Okay, somebody give me a thumbs up. Yeah. Okay, there we go. Thank you, Dr. Forte. I appreciate you. So it's really important that we go back to health and wellness tenet number 2, which is breathe, right? When you do your deep breathing, okay, you're telling the brain, you can stop running. You can tell the brain, okay, you don't have to fight, right? That deep breathing exercise is a notification to the brain, hey, the stress is over, stress is done. brain, go back to homeostasis, or go back to normal, go back to the regular functions that you're doing. Okay. That's the reason that breathing is so important. You're telling the brain to stop activating the stress system. Let all of the body systems go back to normal. And then you can, function as you normally would. When you are in a state of systemic stress, that causes elevations in blood circulation, i.e. high blood pressure, that, contributes to heart disease, that contributes to stroke, that contributes to things like Alzheimer's, that contributes to things like cancer and all of these other disorders and diseases in the body, because the systemic stress causes all kinds of chaos in the body systems, because the body systems don't know that the stress is over. So they're continually running at an all-time high, which is not good at all. It's not good for the brain, and it's definitely not good for the body, right? So health and wellness tenet number 6 is really all about getting to your center when you feel like you are all out of sorts. Okay. When you feel stressed, you need to have a way to manage your stress and release your stress. Okay. So the things that you mentioned, the prayer, meditation, journaling is another way of helping to release that stress. Write it down to get it out, right? Talking to your support system, diving deeply into your spiritual system, taking a walk, maybe going to the gym, working it out. These are ways to tell your body, hey, stress is over, we're letting it go. The brain can then begin to function normally. And another benefit of that is you allow your mind to actually get a better perspective on what's stressing you out and giving you a solution, right? Because if you are delving into a spiritual system, then you know that your source, right? Your source of your spirituality is going to give you everything that you need to handle whatever it is that you're going through. But the way that you get to that wisdom is you got to come out of that stressful situation, and you got to allow the body to come out of that stressful situation so you can accept that wisdom, so that you can see the world in a different perspective. Okay. And then lastly, health and wellness tenet number 7, which is get your you time. It's really about getting the joy out of it, right? And believe it or not, when you allow yourself to enjoy life, you are actually sending positive hormones to the brain. That's essential for brain health. Your positive hormones like dopamine and serotonin, and these are the happy hormones, right? And these hormones help to rejuvenate and add to your vitality when you're turning them on in the brain, okay? Because you're telling the brain that, hey, we're using the positive juju from whatever, the trees, or we're using our positive affirmations, or we're just simply speaking life into ourselves and other people. We're using these things to bring joy to our life, so that we can produce happy hormones like dopamine and serotonin, which then feed into our vitality, which can lessen our wrinkles, which can bring vitality to the skin, right? These things that bring you joy produce the happy hormones, which increases vitality, which then makes you a happier person just in general, okay? So can you guys think of some things that you all do that bring you joy, that contributes to your you time?
Spend time with my grandkids.
Oh, I love that too, Katrina, because them little grandbabies, I tell you, they just looking at them makes you smile. Yes. Anyone else?
It's Burks. I like to call and talk with my seniors. I have a
Okay.
citizen group.
Okay, that's awesome. That is awesome. Hiawatha. I love you, Hiawatha Cromer. I see you with your hand raised.
You're
Take
on mute,
yourself off mute,
Hiawatha.
off mute, Hiawatha. Oh,
Can you hear me?
Oh,
Can you hear
yes,
me?
Hiawatha, we can hear you now.
Yeah, because see, I'm not skilled at this computer and cell phone and all this stuff. But anyway, I wanted to bring in the fact that laughter is one of those techniques that we can use to increase, to make us happy, the happy hormones. And you know,
Yes,
singing is another thing, and I hum all the time, and humming is
yes,
very therapeutic.
yes, absolutely. Those are awesome suggestions. And, as a matter of fact, Hiawatha has this awesome laughing exercise, that she teaches us,
Yes.
so she teaches us to just, even if you are crying, you know how Viola Davis in her movies, she has those really ugly cries. She's got the snot coming on out the nose and tears all down the face, right? She got the real ugly cries. Even if you're in that state where you're doing that ugly crying, right? If you just begin to laugh in the middle of your ugly crying, you would just be amazed at how that could really lift your spirit, right? Somebody may think that you're actually, going crazy, right? You're laughing and crying, but the laughter, it stirs the happy hormones in the body, right? Because the brain then produces the dopamine and the serotonin, and you laugh for just a second, and then you'll find yourself maybe even laughing for a minute because you started with just one chuckle. So watching comedies can help do that. Hiawatha brought out singing and humming. There's a Earth, Wind, and Fire song that I love a lot, and it's Sing a Song. I'm not gonna sing it. I can't sing, but y'all know the song. If you know Earth, Wind, and Fire, you know the song that I'm talking about. Sing a song. Yeah, that song. So that, those types of things, listening to music, dancing, doing your arts and crafts, listening to ocean waves. Bill, that's awesome. Awesome one. All of these things can be a part of what brings you joy and contributes to you getting your you time. Okay.
Yes.
So having 5 minutes at the minimum, having 5 minutes every day where you are sitting doing something that brings you joy helps to bring nourishment to the brain and vitality to the brain, because again, it contributes to the happy hormones that bring about the vitality in the body and thus bring you vitality as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
At the top of my list is soaking my feet in hot water, as warm as you can handle it, and essential oils, and that relaxes me to no end. And
oh, that's awesome.
Oh, I just get, I'm really, that's my me time.
Hey, I love it. I love it. Okay. That's awesome. And I'm sure, everyone on here has some idea of what the you time is. Now, if you don't, then I'm going to suggest that for homework, everyone come up with either a nightly routine or a morning routine that includes at least 5 minutes of you time. And you will be amazed at the difference that makes within your day. Whether that's 5 minutes of you reading your Bible or whatever book of worship that you choose, if that's 5 minutes of meditation, if that's 5 minutes of knitting or singing or dancing, 5 minutes. Everybody on this call has 5 minutes that they can devote to themselves to bring themselves joy in their day. Start your day off with joy, right? Saying a positive affirmation. I am beautiful. I am loved, right? Those things can also bring you joy, even if you're not feeling it. All right. Even if you are in the midst of that ugly cry, right? I am beautiful. I am loved. Damn it. Even if that's what you're going through, it doesn't matter. It does not matter. All right. All right. So if now it's time for Q&A. Does anyone have any other questions or comments they'd like to share?
I would like to share another comment, and it's with regards to exercise. And I make it a habit. I make it a habit every day to do my chair exercises. And I go on YouTube and I look for chair exercises for seniors. And I do a whole series once you start, you don't want to stop.
That's awesome, Hiawatha. I love it. That is awesome. How long do you do your exercises for?
I do it for at least 30 minutes, but most of the time,
Good.
sometimes I do it for 2 hours
Oh,
because I
wow,
get
that's
carried
awesome.
away. Well, what happened is I get carried away once you get started and you want to do the next one.
That's awesome,
But
Hiawatha.
you see, I'm retired, so I have time to do that, you know?
Yeah.
And I tell you what I'm so excited about is that until last year, I didn't do any exercises until I took this program by Darlene Paris on by the Center for Disease Control, and where it's recommended that you must move at least 150 minutes every week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm.
That's what's up. Yes, that is so important, especially as we go into our golden years, you know, especially as we
Yes.
it's very, very, very important to keep our muscle mass. And the way to keep our muscle mass is through exercise. So exercise is extremely important. Absolutely. That's awesome job, Hiawatha. I'm so happy to hear you doing that.
And I'd like to thank Moselle for giving me a routine of soaking my feet. That's really good. One night I woke up, I was in such pain. I texted everybody. I said, listen, start praying for me. Then the idea came, get up and soak your feet. I got up and soaked my feet, and a girl called me and I said, listen, I'm not in any pain anymore. I soaked my feet.
That is wonderful.
It's one of the best kept secrets, and it's a miracle. And it's because of the feet. Your feet have more nerve endings than any other part of your body, the bottom of your feet.
Yes,
So that's
absolutely.
it even has its own science, reflexology.
Yes, that's absolutely right. Yes, yes, it does. Is there anyone else that would like to share or have any other questions?
I really appreciate your presentation.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you all receiving it and having me here. It's an honor and I am grateful. Thank you.